Welcome back, fam. Wyatt Paints here, and this is vlog number 2. Today is Sunday, June 4th, 2023. I gotta say, I'm enjoying the trajectory of my channel. We're closing in on 200 subs, and I cannot be happier. It has been a while since my last vlog entry, almost 2 months now, but life gets hectic like that. Hopefully, moving forward, we can get back to that one video a week minimum. Videos I have planned are a 1/6 scale Dr. Doom, a full-size Mjolnir hammer, and the artists over at Creative Geek contacted me to see if I was interested in doing a Splinter to finish off the Ninja Turtle group, and I totally said yes, so be sure to watch out for that video too. Now, this video isn't going to be all roses because there is something that I just want to gripe about for a sec. Mini rant incoming. Okay, so I've been 3D printing for almost 2 years now, and I've been painting and building models since I was like 13. I'm not the best, but I have a general idea of what I'm doing. I'm going to talk about one sculpt studio in particular, but a lot of artists are actually guilty of this, and it's bad cuts. Now, when it comes to cutting up a 3D model, one of the basic things you should do is to try to make your cuts fall in invisible areas along natural seams of the model. So if you're doing a robot where the joints come together, that's an easy place to put a cut. You don't put cuts in high detail areas. You don't put cuts in awkward places that'd be a pain to hide the seam. So I'm going to talk about Wicked. Wicked is a Patreon group that I've been a part of for well over a year. So please understand, I have a whole lot of praise for the Wicked crew. They do amazing sculptures, and I've been paying for them for over a year, so they have to be good. My issue comes from the last step in their process is when they put the cuts on the model right before they give them to us as patrons. Some of the cuts on them are just some of them are great, but then some of them are really lazy that just make it difficult to make a good looking statue out of the cuts that they've made. And I'm saying this not to badmouth Wicked, not in the slightest, because I love them. They put out great statues. What I am hoping is that they might notice this and put a little bit more effort into this area to bump their models up. Because personally, in my opinion, the quality of their sculpts, the details that they put on, and the amount of models that they give you every month are all A+. Perfect. But these cuts, when I come across these really bad cuts, can take a great model and make it almost not worth even printing because you're not going to get a good print. This is the waste to a Dr. Doom that I'm going to be featured in a video upcoming. Okay. The reason why it's taken me so long on this one is because I've had to reprint this part. Now, why do I have to reprint it? Because it broke 2 very cardinal rules when you're cutting up a model for reproduction. 1, you don't put your cuts across high detail areas. So if we look at this, it's easier to see on the back on this one. Okay, I got this as tight as I could. I still have a small seam. Now, if this was a smooth texture, this seam wouldn't be too bad. It sucks that it's right in the middle, but it wouldn't be too bad. It's really bad because not only do I have to deal with the texture of the skirt, but I also have all of these folds in the fabric that I'm gonna have to re-sculpt. I'm okay at sculpting. I can't do that. Okay, and I don't think most people could fill that seam to make it seamless. Okay, this is just not gonna happen. And if you're gonna spend like 40, 50 hours printing these out, putting them together, that will piss you off. And it pisses me off. So I had to reprint this part. In order to get this part in one piece, I had to print this whole thing in one piece. My issue with this is that this part right here as one piece is small enough to be printed on a Mars 3, which is pretty much the smallest resin that most people are going to use when you're printing out 1/6 scale statues. Okay, so they could have left this at one piece. One piece, done, send it. Instead, they cut it in half and they put the cut in the worst spot. So that's a big issue. It's a really big issue. And it's even bigger issue that I have to print out this whole thing. I had to print this out on my Jupiter just to avoid that big old cut in the middle. That's gripe number 1. Gripe number 2, when it comes to their cuts, sometimes the person cutting it doesn't doesn't keep in mind the physics of things being physical objects, because when you're cutting a piece in a 3D program, these parts don't physically exist and they can pass through each other no problem. So this part is the fur shawl that he wears across his shoulders, Dr. Doom's shoulders, okay? So this piece, how you would assemble it is it slides down on top of the piece like that. And you go, that would make sense. But whoever did the cuts on this decided that they were going to put a key in the back so that it aligns and only goes in one way. If you're looking at this, you probably already see that there's a physics problem going on. This top part means that this piece needs to fit onto the shoulders like this, while this key in the back makes that impossible because it hits the top of the shoulder. It wants to sit down like this, but this key in the back means it has to go in the back. And you go, well, why are you upset? It goes in perfectly. Well, it goes in perfectly without the arms in a way. Once you put in the arms, now you got another whole issue. So now we've got our arms in. Is important because he needs arms. If you try to go on this way, it can't go down. You can't fit it over the shoulders and get that key in. In this case, I've already modified underneath here. I've shaved a whole bunch out. And even then, that's kind of a pain. One, because if we're doing sub-assembly and painting this, that just scratched up all of the surface to get it into place. That's a no bueno. You seeing what I'm saying? This is another problem. So we look at this arm, it's got a key and it's got in. First issue, if you notice on the inside of this arm, there is detailing that matches the top of this arm because it's designed to only go into that way. But when you do that, if this detailing is slightly off or is slightly warped, it will not fit correctly into that keying. Just have the one key. Otherwise, it's all jerky. So if you look on this shoulder, they follow the natural line of the shoulder pad. That's a great cut. But then when you turn around to the other side, instead of following the line of the shoulder pad, they dip lower and get part of the shirt. So there's this part of the detail that now I need to fill in and line up perfectly. This is actually worse on the other side. On this side, again, on the backhand side, they followed the shoulder, which was great. But then on the front half, the more visible side, instead of following the shoulder pad, they went wonky and cut into the shirt so that there's this weird gap that you have to fill in there. Don't know why they do that. They make these cool details like the ropes on the side here. These are really cool. But the problem is because they're not a separate piece, I can't get underneath there to paint that. And if we were just gonna leave this unpainted, okay, fine. But I'm gonna paint this, even with an airbrush. Good luck, good luck. Ready for another one? Let's look at this piece. Okay, this is the base. And it looks really cool, but the problem is I had to modify this base a whole bunch just to get it to fit. So here's the actual base. If you notice all along the side here around the edges, there's a bunch of these sharp rocks, okay? Some of these, there was more. I had to break a lot of them off. The issue with these sharp rocks is that they have holes on the bottom of here that those sharp rocks slide into as almost like extra keys, even though they have one key in the middle already. So the problem happens is you've got some spikes going this way and some spikes going this way. You cannot fit the piece on top of that. I had to break those spikes off and make them flat so that the piece could lay down. And even now, with them broken off, because like there's spots like in here, those little holes, those were holes for those spiky bits to go in. I had to break them all off for it to work. See how like this rock that's going upwards is actually a part of the base. So like it has to key in and there's a hole for it to slide into. There was like 15 of them across the bottom. That makes it literally impossible to get this on there without breaking them. That'll illustrate you some of the issues I have with some of the cuts and the models that I do and understand why sometimes it takes a long time for me to put out these videos to get them built. This Dr. Doom still needs a whole lot of work, mainly because the one last place of griping. Capes, okay? This Dr. Doom has a giant cape that is super complicated for no reason, okay? Now I get Dr. Doom is a regal character. He always has a cape, yes. Does the cape need to be doing all of this? No. But okay, let's say it's just stylization. It needs to be fancy to look good. The problem is you've got this giant cape, which is like super heavy. This is more heavy than his main body because it just is so big, okay? And it's all hanging off of this one tab in his back without, wait, there we go. It's supposed to stay like that. The weight of this wants to pull the whole model off the base. It is so misbalanced, it's insane, okay? But the bigger issue is that this cape comes in 7 pieces, while some of the cuts are fine because they're hidden underneath a deep fold. Like there's one down in here, can't really see it. Great. Some of them go straight across all of the ripples, so it's insanely hard to fill in that. I've been sanding this honestly off and on for like 2-3 weeks. It's most of the way there, but there's still some areas that are just gonna be bad because I can't get to them. Like, and all this detail underneath the cape, I'm not even gonna bother trying to get this smooth because thankfully most of this is gonna be behind his body because his body goes here. But I can't just skip most of it because all of this is gonna just be out there. So I have to do all this detail sanding work in tight spaces that you just can't even get even your finger in there, let alone a file, and see what you're doing. I really wish, as much as I love Wicked, and I love Wicked. I've been with them for over 1.5 years. I have no plans on leaving. I'll see two models a month that'll have these cutting issues. And it certainly just feels like at some point, whoever's cutting them just gets tired and rushes, or they run out of time and rush, and they just make poor decisions that I don't understand why they do so. So, maybe because you know what, honestly, what it feels like the people that cut the models, not the people that design the models, because it definitely seems the people that are cutting the models have less experience in 3D modeling because the cuts are really sometimes very off. They're not people that build models on the regular, because some of these cuts are just egregious where they put them. He's like, that just makes the job of building it 10 times harder, especially if you're going to paint it or if it's going to be a display piece. 10 times harder. Just this one cut almost made me just decide not to do this model. To all 3D modelers, don't do this. To Wicked, please get better. I love your stuff. You have top-notch sculpting, quantity for your bang for your buck, but, and this is such a big but, your cuts suck so bad. It just pulls down the entire studio. Please. That's all I can say. I think that's gonna wrap up this vlog. I think I've ranted enough about cuts, but understand how much I hate bad cuts. I really do. It just makes whatever I want to do with the model that much harder. In general, again, Wicked, I love you. I love your Patreon. I'm gonna be a loyal member. I'm not gonna leave. Just please fix this. And this, and mind you, this isn't just the only example of this. This is just the one I'm working on now. I've had cut issues doing the Archangel in the back where his foot was literally impossible to place. You had to break the model to get his foot in. I've had cut issues with, let's see, Gambit's coat. That was, oh my God. But, you know, a lot. Hopefully next time I'll show you, you know what, here we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you an example of good cuts from a small designer. He doesn't have a large line. He really kind of only does female heroines, and I think he's doing some fantasy stuff now. But I loved his lines called Hirokas. Hirokas is heroines, basically Marvel lady heroes. And he does such a good job. All of his cuts are countersunk, follow good seams lines, and are gorgeous. Check this out. So I want to thank you for watching. Hope you got a little bit more insight into my madness, and hopefully the next couple of months be as good as the last few months. Burpee. So thank you for watching. It was a little bit of a rant. I had some stuff to get off my chest, but if you feel the same way too, write a comment. Let me know what's up. Hopefully in the next vlog, I'll have some better things to say about the channel and about everything going on, and just everything will be a bit more copacetic. Until then, peace and chicken grease, and I'll catch you next time.